just joining us now. Very interesting health topic involving men. You know, we heard a lot about female genital mutilation, which I think is a real problem worldwide. It is a crisis, and it's also going on here in this country. And a court decision recently just refused to take action about it. Well, this next guest believes it's going on with men, too. Anthony Losquadro is with us here on the program. And Anthony, good morning, sir. Welcome.
Hey, Jeff. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
Very good. Anthony, give us a little bit about your background, if you could.
Well, my background is I'm the executive director of Intaction. We're a nonprofit organization, and I have an unusual job, and that is telling Americans why foreskin is actually an awesome thing to have, and talking about the four powers of foreskin and what foreskin offers people, and that is pleasure, protection, lubrication, and connection.
So you're sort of on your own here with this issue, aren't you, Anthony?
No, actually, you know, there's thousands of Americans across the country that are really passionate about protecting children and protecting the next generation and making sure that they have all of the body parts that nature intended all of us to have, both males and even females, as you mentioned.
Certainly the issue with girls has really become a sort of a global cause for concern, wouldn't you say, Anthony?
Well, you know, it has been. It's terrible that girls are subjected to having their genitals forcibly cut or modified. But you know, the problem I think that Americans have is that how can you say that it's bad for girls by not saying it's bad for boys at the same time?
Well, it's something that actually has been going on for thousands of years, wouldn't you say?
Well, you know, so is slavery, but the point is that you know, like, for instance, most of the world has never embraced circumcision for males for thousands of years. Like, for instance, Europe's never practiced circumcision.
What are the numbers, Anthony? Do you have those by chance? Like statistics?
About 75% of men around the world are intact. It's just that, like, places like outside of religious preferences, like in America's in its own bubble when it comes to this, because every medical association around the world does not recommend infant circumcision.
Why do you think America is this way?
Well, you know, it started about 100 years ago. You have to go back just in time, just a little bit. And like in the 1890s and 1900s, Americans were obsessed about stopping boys from masturbating. And you had advocates like Dr. Kellogg, who was a popular doctor of his day, the inventor of Kellogg's cornflakes, and he advocated that boys be circumcised because he knew that the foreskin was very sensitive. So if you took that away, it would help reduce the likelihood that they would want to touch it.
And that caught on.
You know, it caught on. Doctors realized that they could make a lot of money doing this, and they promoted it. Americans became turned on to it. And now we've got kind of like this herd mentality that we do it because everybody else is.
So has it been increasing in numbers? What's been happening in recent years? Has there been sort of a turnaround? Are parents sort of viewing it differently now?
People are taking really a fresh look at it, and rates have been dropping substantially, really from the 80s up until now. You know, people are realizing that this is a normal body part. Nature put it on our bodies for a reason. It serves an important function.
What? Let's talk about that. What are the functions that it serves?
Well, you know, first, the foreskin contains over 20,000 specialized nerve endings, and it's the major sensitivity portion of the male anatomy. The second thing it does, it protects the end of the penis, just like your eyelid protects your eye. It keeps the end of the penis moist. It provides emollients that keep the skin soft and supple. It provides its own lubrication. And, you know, psychologically, it's part of your body, and only you should have a say over whether you have it or if you don't.
So, being done to infants, you think is sort of an infringement on their rights. It should be their decision.
You know, it's an infringement on their rights, and it impacts them a lot, even psychologically.
And how does that impact them psychologically? I'm just curious.
Well, it subjects infants to trauma. The definition of trauma is an exceptional experience in which a powerful and dangerously painful stimuli overwhelm a child. And,
so are the infants, you think, feeling a lot of pain when that happens? I mean, most of them are probably sedated when it happens, right?
No, doctors can't use anesthesia. They're supposed to. But there's limits to what they can do, and most refuse to do it because they either don't know how to administer it or they can't be bothered. It adds another 15 minutes to the procedure. I want you to hear a little sound clip of what a baby goes through. Because people
I don't want to play that, Anthony. I don't want to go play that. I'm sure it's a painful experience. I just want to talk to you about it. Why has this really become your sort of cause celeb? Why has this become something that you've really been, I guess, spending your life now advocating? What turned this into your pet cause?
I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I speak to a lot of people, and I've spoken to many doctors and nurses, and they've told me, they work on the maternity floor, and when they take all the babies and they line them up and they put them in this special contraption that ties them down and makes them spread eagle, and they can hear the screams of these babies down the hallway. And I think to myself, how can this, this happens every day, thousands of times a day, 7 days a week, and the cries of these babies, at times it almost takes the breath out of my lungs, and to have a baby strapped down and screaming in pain.
And you're saying in other countries this isn't done regularly at all. I mean, is other countries, you think, turning away from this more and more, like in Europe and other Western countries?
Europe's never embraced it. Going back to the Hellenistic ancient Greeks, they've all of Europe has Asia, Russia, South America, Australia. They've never embraced it. This is just outside of religion. It's like Muslims and Jews. Outside of that, it's a uniquely American proposition that started again because of people like Dr. Kellogg's, and they thought that this is something that.
So what are you? You're doing this as an education campaign to try to sway public opinion against this. You're trying to draw people to your website. You're trying to influence doctors and parents. Anthony, tell us a little bit about what your goals are.
There's a little bit of everything. We educate people. We do public events where we have exhibits and we distribute literature and we engage people in discussions. And what we find is that once we give people the information or we encourage them to do their own research, we find that they say, I never thought of it before. And you're right. This is something that's really wrong that we're doing to our children. And so it's just basically basic education, and just get people to think about something that normally maybe they would never think
Have
about.
Parents come to you, Anthony, and have you been able to convince them to go in a different direction by presenting this information that you've researched?
We've had so many parents come to us, and there's so many stories that we hear. We were at one event, and a mom with her two sons was there, and she looked at our exhibits, and right there on the spot, she apologized to her two sons. She said, "I'm so sorry that I did this to you. I just never realized this before." And it's just things like this that are so powerful. And so we impact people's lives every day with this information.
So some believe that circumcision actually is a healthy procedure, that it's done for health reasons. You see no health reasons. You see just the opposite, actually. It's having negative health ramifications.
Absolutely. There's no medical association in the world that recommends it. In America, the organization that's taken the mantle on the policy of this is the American Academy of Pediatrics, and even they said that the benefits are not great enough to recommend routine circumcision for all babies. And then when we look at like the Canadian Pediatric Society, talk neighbors to the north, they specifically do not recommend circumcision for newborns.
Wow.
British Medical Association, circumcision for medical purposes would be unethical and inappropriate.
Do you believe, Anthony, the parents shouldn't even have this ability? You believe it shouldn't be allowed, or are you just trying to encourage more parents not to do it?
I think parents need the information so they can make an informed decision. They don't have that now. You know, when they don't think about it, they go to have their baby, they find out it's a boy, and you know the mother's recovering from her epidural or her anesthesia. She's kind of out of it, and you have a doctor coming in saying, "You want to do it? Let's do it. You want to do it? Let's do it now. I got to go. You want to do it?" And they pressure the parents into doing it, and then afterwards the parents find out they didn't need to do it, and there's a lot of regret there.
You know, I think it's a fascinating subject, and certainly I appreciate your research on it, Anthony. I appreciate you being with us. We're going to link to your website where people can get more information. I'd encourage parents to go on there and do their research, decide for themselves, get educated about it. And Anthony's been doing the research, and certainly I think someone that should be listened to when you have that decision you have to make. Anthony Losquadro, appreciate you very much. It's Intaction.org, and you know, we'll probably be seeing more discussion about this in the days ahead. I think the trend could be going in Anthony's direction, not only here, but worldwide. All right, a lot more to get to. First, we'll get a news update. Keep it right here. It's WGSO.